Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you from the YouKaren subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. Our first story today was submitted to us by email by a listener called Eric. Eric didn't provide a title for this one, but the subject of the email was, "Thought you might like this tale of mine from my fast food days in the 90s. My very first job was at Jack in the Box. I was 17 in 1995. And one Thursday night, I was manning the fry station. It was a graveyard shift and it was getting close to bar rush, so I was getting ready for the 1 to 2 hour onslaught that was to follow. Now, after about 45 minutes in, it was pretty busy, but not too busy, so my shift leader asked me to stop the fry station and start with the night cleaning, and he would take over on the fry station. Sounds good, I said. I would much rather be in the back doing the dishes and prep work because no one bothers me. When all of a sudden, I hear it over the headset in a shrill, "I demand to speak to your manager" voice. "Yeah, I would like 200 tacos, please." They had and still have 2 tacos for 99 cents. I was freaked. I quickly poked my head out and asked, "Did I hear that right? 200 tacos? And the shift leader says, "F, get out here and help now." Now, we can only make up to 10 tacos at a time. Each batch takes a minute 30 in the fryer, so I'm thinking of ways to maybe jerry-rig some fry baskets so we can make more of them. We asked her to park, being it was going to take at least 25 minutes to make all of these. I hear her shouting in the drive-thru window, "No, I will not park. I want my tacos. I have a party to get to and promised the food, and I'm already running late." The drive-thru gal is pleading with her to park, as every minute she stays there hurts our average time. The boss does not like it when the average is over 3 minutes 30 seconds. The lady in the van shouts, "Where's your manager? I've been waiting long enough already." She had been waiting for 6 minutes and we had just barely broken taco number 36. The shift leader goes to the window and asks her to calm down, and that normally when these large orders are placed, they would be called in at least 30 minutes in advance. She once again yells in the window, "Well, I'll park over there, but if you're not ready in 10 minutes, I'll be right back here, and I demand a cheesecake for my trouble." The shift leader hands her a slice of cheesecake from the little fridge down below. This satisfies her for the moment, and she continues to the parking lot. I'm standing there freaking out. At the moment, I'm the only one making these tacos, and putting the toppings on them when they immediately come up from the fryer is quite painful. Hot grease. I have lost all track of time at this point. There is lettuce and taco sauce everywhere. A couple rogue tacos were on the floor. I'm pumping them out as fast as I can. By the time I'm done making 10 tacos, the next 10 are done with the fryer. I put them in bags, dump the tacos on the prep area, put in another 10, and continue. I guess it had been 10 minutes because Karen is now in the lobby at the counter. "Where the F are my tacos? I've been here forever. Where are my gosh darn tacos?" The shift leader approaches the counter. "They're almost done. Please be a little more patient. We will bring them all out to you as soon as we can." Remember, they are handling other orders while I'm taking care of these darn tacos, and bar rush is in full swing. Karen shouts again, "Well, hurry the F up. You are all useless. I swear to God, I'm gonna be here first thing in the morning to tell your manager what awful service I'm getting." She then leaves back to her car. I'm still pumping tacos out. I lost count a long time ago. I have no idea how many more I have of these to make, when the shift leader says to me, "Whoa, Eric, you can stop now. You've made 20 tacos over." He asks me to run them out to Karen in the parking lot, then take my 10-minute break to cool off. I head out with several bags and go to her van. She looks at me and yells, "It's about effing time. I've been here for over an hour." It had just been under 30 minutes. She swipes the bags like 5 at a time. She pulls one of the tacos out to eat it. Before she takes a bite, she looks at it, then goes nuclear. "I effing said no cheese. I'm lactose intolerant, and I told the guests at my party that I would bring them a lactose-free meal. I want a refund. and you will make all of these over again with no cheese. I quickly run back in. Did she really say she didn't want cheese on her tacos? The shift leader looks puzzled and asks the drive-thru girl. She says no, the receipt doesn't say anything about no cheese, and nor does the order screen. I sure as heck didn't hear no cheese over the headset. The shift leader and I head back out to her car. He says calmly, "You never said anything about not wanting cheese on those tacos. I'm sorry, but there is nothing we can do, and you are not entitled to a refund." She goes nuclear again. "I know what I gosh darn said. I said no effing cheese. Now make me new tacos with no cheese. Get me a refund, and I'm keeping these others just for wasting my time." The shift leader says, "I'm sorry, but you really didn't say anything about not wanting cheese. Every employee in there never heard no cheese over the headset. I can't give you a refund on such a large order as we didn't do anything wrong. Now I must ask you to leave as we have other customers to serve." She yells again, "How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'll have your job for this." She quickly starts her van, throws it in reverse, and peels backwards, crashing into a trash can and almost hitting the shift leader. He heads back in, and I take my 10-minute break, sucking down 2 cigarettes back to back before heading back in. I know, I was 17 and smoking at the time. I smoked since I was 13, don't judge. We finished the bar rush with no other issues and finished the shift. I head home. At around 11 a.m., I get a call from the main manager asking me for my side of what happened last night. I guess Karen had called and told her that she had called in an order for 200 tacos a good 45 minutes before showing up for them, asking for no cheese over the phone. We made her wait almost 2 hours and gave her cold food, also saying that everyone was cussing her out and being very disrespectful. I told her exactly what happened, and my story lined up with the shift leader, the drive-thru gal, the grill guy, and the guy that was there just for the truck delivery. Nothing more happened. Karen was banned from not only our location, but we called other fast food chains in town, including our competitors, explaining what had happened the night prior. I don't know if she was banned from other places, but definitely wasn't welcome back at Jack in the Box in our town. This was in 1995 though, who knows what now. So Eric mentioned that this happened on the graveyard shift and was close to bar rush, so we're thinking around 2 o'clock in the morning when this Karen came through the drive-thru and ordered 200 tacos. I honestly think there should be a policy in place where if somebody's gonna order that kind of quantity, they have to call in at least 30 minutes, but preferably over an hour before they're going to come in and pick them up. I think Eric and crew took this one further than I would though, because if the customer was at the window and berating my team like that, I would have shut it down immediately. I would have told Karen, "I'm sorry, you're getting your money back, and we're not making that order because you don't know how to behave." Eric, thank you for your submission to the podcast, and anybody else that wants to send in their own story, you can do so at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. This next story comes to us from Professional Sea Cacti, Campground Karen, and the Bad Power Pedestal. Currently working at a campground in the maintenance department, Karen and Richard, dick to his haters, checked in last night around 8 p.m., were shown to their RV spot 74, and left to get set up. At approximately 10:30 last night, Dick decides to call our emergency line and explain that he had no electricity. Our office manager let him know that we could send a tech over, or alternatively, he could move to an unoccupied site 73. Dick decided to move, and we heard nothing else from him until this morning. On our morning site check, we found Dick had moved to site 71. Okay, no issue, it wasn't being reserved, so no conflict there. When he was approached to be informed he would have to go by the registration office to change the paperwork for the site, he informs our department that he did relocate to 73, but 10 minutes after connecting his power, the power failed again. The issue continued when he relocated to 72 and 71. At this point, it is obvious that the issue he is having is with his own equipment and nothing to do with ours, and this was brought to his attention. Enter Karen. "How dare you insult us, claiming that our motorhome is faulty?" It's a converted U-Haul truck designed by some famous Burning Man celebrity. I demand to see the property manager. The property manager was happy to let Karen and Dick go through their little tirade, then informed them that because they were in a converted moving truck and not a built-for-purpose RV, they had breached the rental contract that they signed when checking in. Because of the potential for damage to our equipment, their reservation was being canceled, with only 40% being returned as per the terms of the contract mentioned above. This, of course, made Karen's day, where she proceeded to throw insults, threats of calling the media, suing, and even calling the sheriff. Our property manager was then thrilled, no kidding, she was laughing hard about this later, to inform Karen that if we did discover burned or damaged electrical connections, then her card on file would be charged for the damages and the loss of revenue from the site being unsafe. At this time, Karen and Dick are packing to leave, and for the most part, have yet to push the issue further. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Lilac Crazy. It questions OP and says, "To be continued?" OP said, "Nope, they're long gone now. I guess we are waiting to hear from their lawyers." So you're telling me that Karen and Dick moved their makeshift RV from site 74 to 73 to 72 to 71, and all of the times they did that, they ended up losing power and didn't figure it was their own problem? You definitely know they didn't build that RV, they bought it, because if they'd built it, they would have known a little bit about how it ran. Side note, I just had to pause recording for about 5 minutes because I swear 1,000 Canadian geese just flew over my house. Wow. This story comes to us from Smug Dolphin. Co-op Karen decides a Friday night dinner party in New York City is unacceptable. Alright, long story, but let me paint a picture for you guys. I have lived in various apartments for the past decade, in a variety of major cities, both in the US and outside of the US, and in New York before, and have never once received a complaint of any kind, formal or informal, from any neighbors, the building, whatever. I've always had good and pleasant relationships with my neighbors, making small talk in the common areas, asking about their lives, the whole shebang. I've also thrown numerous parties in the past, typically a couple times a year, maybe 3 times at most. Hosting takes a lot of effort, laugh out loud. And these things are not ragers. They're basically glorified dinner parties. My god, this last one even had a full-on charcuterie board that I curated. Shake my head. I recently moved into a co-op in Midtown Manhattan. I'm renting, not even 2 weeks ago, and the resident Karen has already complained. I would understand if there were some kind of repeated pattern of annoyance, but this woman, I'm also a woman, just FYI, decided that the Friday housewarming dinner party I threw was unacceptable. More context about this building, we are in a loud part of Midtown Manhattan, near a major university hospital where you can hear sirens going off at all hours of the day and night, and right by a highway ramp where you can hear trucks bouncing over potholes every few minutes. Which is to say that I don't think anywhere here has any expectation of pin drop quiet generally. But also, in the 2 weeks that I've lived here, I have not been able to hear a peep from anything going on in the other units. Not from the ones next to me, not on my floor, not from above me, and not from below me. So unless everyone else in this building lives their lives like they're in a monastery, doubtful considering the age majority in the building seems to range from late 20s to mid 40s, the soundproofing between units, not from the outside, seems fairly decent. All of that to say, I really don't think that someone could legitimately file a noise complaint unless either A, the unit was being really loud, or B, they're a building Karen actively looking for others to harass. Which brings me to the eve of the party. Again, it was a Friday night in New York. A total of about 10 people came, all mostly in their late 20s or early 30s, like myself, and all young professionals. For good measure, I gave the doorman downstairs a heads up that I'd be hosting some people that evening, and told them to call me if there were any issues. They said no problem, and I assumed things would be good for the evening. The party involved some background music playing out of a small Bluetooth speaker I have that's attached to my TV, and is maybe a grand total of about 5 by 3 inches and at a volume no higher than what you'd put on if you were watching a movie alone in your home. And people either sitting on my couch or standing in my living room, chatting and mingling. There was no dancing of any kind, no drinking games, again, not a rager, no tomfoolery of any kind. Basically just charcuterie and wine and chatting. Party started at 9 p.m. Our profession often involves late hours, hence the start time. Co-op Karen comes to my door not even 2 hours later. She came sometime around 10:30, 10:45 to complain about the alleged noise. Co-op Karen looked a bit older than me, maybe late 30s, early 40s, and alleged that she could hear our party all the way from the other end of the hall. I was kind of taken aback by this because again, the party had not seemed that loud to me. Still, I apologized, told her I would turn the background music down even further, and offered her some pizza, charcuterie, and/or drinks as a peace offering, and to be neighborly. She says no, but the exchange seemed to have gone fine enough, and I didn't think too much would come of it. She asked me to turn it down, I complied. But before turning it down, I went out into the hallway myself to see if the noise was actually projecting that far. Spoiler alert, I could not hear any noise from the party in the hallway whatsoever, unless I was maybe standing right outside of my door within a 5-foot radius of it. Even so, I still then turned down the music even more as per her request and asked guests to lower the chatting volume just a bit, just to try to be respectful of the neighbor's request. The party was over right around midnight and everyone went home, except one friend of mine who was crashing for the night. Fast forward to the next morning, it's probably around 11 a.m., maybe noon the next day, almost 12 hours after the party had already ended. My friend opens the front door to head out, and who do we spot? Co-op Karen, loitering outside my door with an expression that I can only describe as looking like she got caught. From this, I assume that maybe she was from one of the units directly adjacent to mine. I live at the dead end of the floor hallway, and the elevator bank and staircases are not at all near the end that I'm at. Which means that, unless you live in my unit or one of my neighboring units, you would have literally no reason to be in this section of the hallway. Turns out, my assumption was wrong. Friend says that Co-op Karen got into the elevator with her and proceeded to get off the elevator one floor below mine. The floor one below mine is purely residential, no communal spaces, or anywhere you would be able to go unless you actually lived in one of the units on that floor. Huh, weird, right? Considering that both A, Karen was loitering outside of my door the next morning, and B, that her initial complaint was that she could allegedly hear my party all the way from the other end of the hall, you'd think she was one of my floor neighbors. But nope, looks like she came all the way up from another floor to both A, complain, and then to B, snoop by my doorway the next morning. As a side note here, I am well aware that sometimes sound can carry upwards or downwards in apartment buildings, and that it's possible that she could somehow hear the party from below me more than my actual neighbors. Still, if that were the case, she should have said so instead of concocting this story about my party being so loud that she could hear it down the hall on the other side of the building. And on top of that, since I've moved in here, I have not been able to hear a peep from either the unit above me or below me, so I'm skeptical, especially given that the noise level did not seem unreasonable when I went to check at all, and 0 other complaints were received. Fast forward to yesterday, I get an email from the third-party co-op management company informing me one of my neighbors, gee, I wonder who, submitted a noise complaint about me. I replied to the email trying to explain the full situation. The party was not very big, not very loud, and I had kept the doorman in the loop, and that I had still turned things down even further when she complained to be neighborly. The management company lady then responds with the most aggressive, condescending email I've probably ever received from a so-called professional, accusing me of not taking responsibility and how she's disappointed in me, yada yada yada. Anyway, that's almost a whole separate story now, but I stuck to my guns, reiterated my side of things, and how I really did not think that things had gotten out of hand, and was able to at least get this lady to concede that if another noise complaint is called in, someone from building staff will come up to somewhat objectively determine whether the complaint has any merit. I was also told to get more rugs to cover at least 80% of my flooring. This requirement was news to me. While in fairness, there is a line in the lease about this requirement, it was phrased as not being mandatory if the landlord doesn't require it. And when I toured the unit, the previous tenant had 0 rugs of any kind, so I'd assumed it didn't apply to me. But whatever, I can get some rugs. All of this to say, I now feel attacked in my own home and afraid to have anyone over, lest Co-op Karen complain that it's too loud. I'm also creeped the F out that she was loitering by my door the next morning for no justifiable reason, given how reasonable the noise level seemed to be at my party when I went to check the situation for myself in the hallway, and given again how it was relatively early on a Friday night in Midtown Manhattan. I don't know how to get this woman off my back if I ever have people over again. To be fully transparent, building quiet hours are technically from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. But again, even with that requirement, I didn't think any of the sound coming out of my apartment was enough to constitute a violation. On top of that, my understanding, from having lived in many apartment buildings in the past, was that quiet hours on the weekends have a bit more wiggle room. Look, I would get it if I was blasting music through amps into the wee hours of the morning, but A, I was not blasting the music at all. Again, think the volume you'd have on your TV watching a movie alone. And B, when Co-op Karen decided to complain, it was barely even half an hour after 10 p.m. And at least for me, unless the noise were either A, truly egregious, or B, a repeat offense, I would never submit a noise complaint within the building. Reiterating, I have been in this building for barely 2 weeks, and this woman decides to already complain. But you guys tell me, is she actually a Karen, or am I overreacting? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Ruko. It says, "What about shenanigans? You never mentioned if you are participating in shenanigans. Honestly, she is just a pain in the butt, and you will never win with her. Do you know if the co-op management are also residents of the building? Good call on having them come and actually see if there's any merit to the complaint. Record the next time you have a party for proof in case she breaks your chops again and tries to get you in trouble." OP responded to this one and said, "No shenanigans unless charcuterie, pizza, baked goods, and a few bottles of wine while chatting counts as shenanigans. And I 100% plan on it. Already looking at decibel recorders on Amazon and apartment cams, so the next time I have people over, I can have the decibel recorder in view of the cam and timestamped." Another commenter called The Gray Bush said, "Get a peephole cam. Catch her on video loitering outside your door, report it to management." OP responded and said, "Really tempted to. I'm sure with someone like her, she did it once, she'll do it again. I'm trying to verify that it doesn't break any of the building rules or whatever to have that set up though. Alternatively, I can always just make sure I have my phone on me to record next time I see her through the peephole." You know, OP, some people have nothing better to do with their time than to try and make other people's lives miserable. And the reason why they do it is because they don't have any party invites on a Friday night, they don't have any friends to go and see, so they think the whole world is against them, and they have to go looking for reasons to cause a fight. At minimum, I would be looking into getting a peephole camera so that you can see any time that there's movement outside of your door. Being down at the end of the hallway, the only people that should be there are you and your direct neighbors, and people from other floors have absolutely no reason to be by your door. Good luck with this one, OP. It sounds like Karen and the co-op management are going to be a pain in the butt for the whole time that you live there. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.